All right. Long time no see. Waiting on everybody to roll in. Let's make some tea. I want to make some of that aged white moonlight. And I got it from Woo Mountain Tea, WU Mountain Tea. It's like a white tea that they age, and it comes in a big cake. These are just things that I have left, and I really like the aged teas. It pulls out a lot of the tannins, so it's a really like smooth like mouth feel. There's no astringency there. It's not drying. And also the antioxidant levels increase, so I find that super interesting. Most herbs, as they age, they lose potency, right? But when it comes to Camellia sinensis, which is what they make white tea, green tea, black tea, that type of stuff out of, even oolong, uh, you can do different things to it. But as it ages, it actually there's more and more. There's more and more antioxidants and flavonoids and compounds available, and it's just really interesting to me because you don't find that very often in the plant world. Um, okay, let me turn live chat on. Hey, folks. Um, okay, live chat is on. Now, as a reminder, today is the Friday Q&A, but we are going to brew this tea first. I'm going to go at 180. Okay, I have my handy dandy teapot. Hey, everybody rolling in. Afternoon, everybody. Whoa, knocking tables over. How's everybody doing? I have had a rough month, but it's okay, you know. And full disclosure, a couple days ago, I had a crazy histamine release type attack, and I'm just now like coming out of it as of today, and so my brain is a little mushy. So, this Q&A, I'm just gonna kind of take it easy, go slow, make fun of myself when I fuck up words, because that's the main thing. My eyes twitching, and just doing my best with what is currently happening inside of my brain. For those of you that don't know, if histamine levels get really like up there, you can have like a histamine attack that's like not just allergies, but like it also makes your speech all weird because my brain is swimming in histamines. And of course, I'm working on getting that under control. Um, Hello, April. I don't have a question. I just want to thank you for all that you have done. I keep your book always near. Thank you. You're so very welcome, and I'm grateful that everybody's here with me. I thought I'd try to do these during noon, my time in Oregon. It's only noon, to see like how that works. Like if more people would be able to join, if it's better in my mornings, which is their afternoon. But right now it's like I think it's like 4 o'clock on the East Coast, so might have overshot it. Everyone's just now getting off of work and no one can tune in. We'll find out. But tea first. Did I turn it on to all chat or just super chat? Yeah, live chat. All right. Um, and then after tea, we will do the Q&A. Yeah, the garden's going good. I know a lot of you guys missed the morning tea times. The garden's doing good-ish. I have a pack rat problem. This little son of a bitch. He's not little, they're like big. And they're like, we have these woodland pack rats, so they're fucking adorable because they have furry ears and a furry tail, and they're like the cutest little creature you've ever seen. But they seem to have a vendetta against digging up my tomatoes, and I don't know why, because there's nothing under the tomatoes that's any different than any other of the soil, right? And so, the cats have been doing a good job at getting the pack rat babies, and they're just from the forest. It's not like they're not like in my house or anything. Um, so I put out a live trap so I can see if I can catch them and relocate them. But the problem is they're territorial, so I get rid of one. Eventually, another one will move in, but maybe it'll take them time to realize that they can come and destroy my garden. Most people have issues with rabbits or bugs. I have pack rats. um, so yeah, I've just been trying to, I don't know, get a bunch of stuff in the garden, but also, whoa, the chat just jumped in. Here I was like, okay, no one's talking, but I think it just caught up. So there's like tons of messages rolling by suddenly, but yeah, I'm also like letting go of a bunch of stuff that I just did not get done in time, and I'm gonna have to come to terms with the fact that I won't have much, if any, winter squash. It's okay. I didn't get my springtime carrots in because that box needs a lot of work. That's okay. I am trying to like just let it go and not eat myself alive because I'm pretty bad at like beating myself up if I'm like, oh, you fucking failed. You might have gotten 99 things done, but that one thing you didn't do, you're a piece of shit. Right? Like that's how our brain works. So, but yeah, yeah, somebody said, "Oh yeah, the pack rats eat all of your vehicle wiring." Yeah, or like you'll be driving down a mountain road because you live in the mountains. Usually, if there's pack rats around, and then suddenly your car catches on fire because they built what they call like a, is it like a haboob? They build this big, huge nest of stuff on top of your engine block, and they can build it in a night. And so it's like, you're just driving, and then all of a sudden, all this stuff catches on fire, or they rip through the wires. For a long time, we had to leave in a different place that we lived where they were worse. We had to leave our the hood of our rig up, like open, so they wouldn't go under there. Right? It's crazy. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to like let go of the pressure of having everything in the garden done because this was supposed to be a not stressful garden. Right? What it's supposed to be, but I have a lot of peppers and a lot of tomatoes in the ground, and I will have enough greens to choke a fucking horse. I have all of the kale, both perennial and annual, all of the chard, all of the collard greens, all that stuff. And also, I remind myself that I can plant carrots like halfway through the summer if I want, right? Beets too. I can even plant them in the fall and push through. And I think what I'm trying to remember is that this year I plan on doing a lot of like wintertime gardening. So it's not like I have the push to have everything that I exactly need in the summer or else, right? Like I'm gonna try to grow a lot of stuff in the greenhouse this year, try a lot of cupboard boxes and things like that, and just it's okay. It'll be all right. I can probably buy squash from somewhere. I also thought about that with the onions. I think I don't like growing normal onions. It's so tedious, and it's like I just started planting a ton that smells so nice. I started planting a ton of perennial onions. Like they're more like cut and come again chive or bunching type. And I have one. Oh, my nose is itching so bad. So I have one that it's supposed to do really well in the winter in greenhouse conditions. So I'm gonna start her in like late summer, right, and have her big and healthy come winter. And then I'll move the rabbits into the greenhouse in cages. They live in a colony now, but in the wintertime they'll be in cages in the greenhouse. Their body heat and the compost that'll be going underneath of them from when they shit, and it goes into the compost and it feeds the worms, will keep that greenhouse 10 to 15 degrees warmer than outside. And that in the wintertime is a huge deal if you're growing things. I even have ooh, that's so nice. I even have, come on, brain. I have cucumbers that are supposed to do well in cool greenhouse environments that do not need a lot of light to produce. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll pull it off. I might start them in like August, right? Maybe late August. And then September, October, and see if I can have like fresh cucumbers into November. That would be fantastic. Okay, so I've had my tea, which is super tasty, by the way. Let me flip over my timer, and let's kick off this Friday Q&A and watch me make a fool of myself. So if you have a question, say question, and then, state your question, and I'll do my best. Question, herbs for deworming a kitten. You could start putting in like diatomaceous earth into like wet food. You would just need to do that for like a month or two to keep on top of like the egg hatch cycle, right? Okay, question. Best antifungal for ringworm. I really like a good sage infused oil for this, but not the garden sage, like the wild sage, because garden sage is actually a mint and not really related to like the big sage, the desert sage, the stuff that's really strong. I really love that. Pine pitch is good too, and smothering it, right, like putting duct tape over it works pretty well. It's not the friendliest to your skin, but anything that's going to smother it works really well. Question, why isn't my lemon and lime water kefir getting bubbly? 3 batches and no bubbles. My strawberry, blueberry, grape have all been full of happy bubbles. Not enough sugar in the second ferment. I would probably add like another tablespoon or so, because if you think about limes and lemons, they're not really sweet, right? So there's not a whole lot for the second ferment to feed off. And remember, by the time you're making your second ferment for your water kefir, and I have a video for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, go check out my water kefir video. It needs more sugar because it's already eaten the sugar out of the first ferment. And so you give it like a tablespoon of sugar, and then it'll eat all that sugar. There won't be any of that left. It turns it into carbonation. Question, what can I do for tinnitus? Just had a well check and turned out good other than tinnitus. Doctor just blew off my concern about it. Yeah, he will. I've talked about this a lot in the past. I would get your cortisol levels checked, but not through the doctor, because they're just going to do a blood test in the morning, but your cortisol works in a rhythm, right? Like, so when you wake up, it should be the highest, and then it slowly, 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 slowly comes down until you're sleepy at night, right? But what usually happens with tinnitus is that your cortisol is through the roof, or it's flipped. Like if you find that your tinnitus is worse at night than it is in the morning, right? If you notice it more, it's probably because you have low cortisol in the morning and really high cortisol at night. And a spit-based test that you can order online will give you the best insight to that. Of course, you can look into B12 deficiency, magnesium deficiency, see if you have Epstein-Barr virus reactivated in your body, because it likes to attack your thyroid and your ear canals, because stress is what it eats. So like if you make more cortisol, it feeds more, right? So those are the things that I would look into, and you can dig through my other videos where I like deep dive into it. Question, hi April, any tips on how to help with auto-inflammatory bone condition disease? My son is on NSAIDs for years. What herbs could he use? Because it's an autoimmune, that's hard, because anything that you use that stimulates your immune system, which most of herbs do in some way. I didn't knock the tea over, just the tea itself. My hands really get to moving. It can stimulate and make his immune system attack him even more, right? So some herbs to look into that are more along the lines, well, one herb to look into that's more along the lines of modulating would be turkey tail mushroom. She's more of an immune modulator. Like if your immune system is too high, she calms it down. If your immune system is too low, she brings it back up, right? Another thing you could look into is LDN. It's not an herb at all. It's a medication. It's called low dose naltrexone. And they have found that it's really amazing for anything autoimmune, regardless of what your type of autoimmune is. Like the amount of stuff you can read and videos you can watch online for people like having great success for this, and mainly over in Europe, because in the US we're like, wait, that's cheap and abundant, you shouldn't use it. Right? But you can get a prescription for it online and like read through the communities and things like that. Also, be really careful with that, those NSAIDs that he's using, because his liver is eventually it's going to be very unhappy about that. Let me jump way down here. Okay, question: Do you use a hen whey? I do not. I don't even know what that is, so maybe I do and I don't know, but I don't think that I do. My goodness. Okay, let me roll back up. Help for long-term inflammation after ankle surgery a year ago. I had ankle surgery and my ankle still swells on a daily basis. Thank you. People don't realize how much like an injury or a surgery can take stuff out of us. And by stuff, I mean nutrients and minerals. And so it sounds like you're still not actually healed. Like you're healed topically, it looks fine. But the way that it's inflaming, it makes me think that inside it's not healed well, or it's still really agitated. I would look into like increasing my vitamin C intake substantially. What are your B vitamin status? Because did you know when they put you under for like surgery or anything like that, that it actually depletes like it knocks the B12 out of your cells, regardless if it's like nitrous or whatever they're using, it lowers your B12 depending on the state you're in. They use different things to put you under. But I would really look into that. So like maybe look into like a nutritional panel, like a full blood panel. You could get an HTMA hair test to an extent, although it doesn't really show necessarily like vitamin C status and things like that. Of course, you could start putting comfrey on there topically. You could do like a comfrey infused oil or comfrey poultices. You could also start using castor oil alongside of that to maybe deal with some of the scar tissue that's causing swelling. Okay, let me jump down here. Question: what to do for a fatty liver? I really like artichoke for this, like the artichoke that you eat with butter or however you eat it. But you can get an artichoke extract, right? But also because I've been really deep diving into like bacteria, like fermented things, and I have off and on over the years, but lately I'm like really like zoned back in on it. There's a lot of research showing that things like L-reuteri, milk kefir that you make at home, like getting your gut health back in check can help your body like get rid of some of that excess fatty tissue that's accumulating on your liver, right? As well as your midriff and things like that. And it's really interesting because there are people that are like their waist size and their stomach size and all that stuff is shrinking, but they're not actually losing any weight. What's happening is you aren't muscle wasting. Like you're building muscle while you're getting rid of fat, right? But you could also really, alongside of that, work with something like artichoke extract is pretty good for that. Let's see. Question: what's good to lower cortisol? So many things can lower cortisol. It just depends on like what your cortisol is chronically raised from, right? So if it's chronic stress, like all day mindset, no matter what, you can't avoid it, it's not some significant stressor in that moment, you can start working with things like milky oats, oat straw infusion, chamomile. These things are really gentle. And linden, I really like linden bloom, like tincture or infusion for this, like for chronic stress, right? I remember the thing that stress does and the thing that cortisol does is it starts like the inflammation, like a cytokine storm, right? Like you're constantly inflamed, your body's constantly upset. But also, like, this is gonna sound crazy, but like eating well, I shouldn't sound crazy, but like eating well on a consistent basis, because remember, like sometimes with stress we undereat. Like if you are an undereater because of stress, actually learning how to eat consistently throughout the day would probably help your stress levels greatly, because when you don't eat, your body raises cortisol so your blood sugar stays stable, and that cortisol robs glucose from your muscles, right? And so it's like this vicious cycle of, oh, but I don't feel hungry. Yeah, because cortisol is taking away your hunger cues, and but you're stressed out because, and you see how it like goes back and forth like that. So question: any recommendations for osteosarcoma in dogs to help with limb pain and swelling? You know, you've probably already tried this route, and you don't hear me mention it very often, but I do think that CBD is overlooked for dogs. That might really, really help with the pain. If you could get away with it topically, you could maybe do a cayenne salve, but they might only lick it once because it would be spicy. It might actually be something that you could keep them from licking without having to put a cone on, right, to help with the pain. But witch hazel compress is good too, just to help pull down any like pain and muscles and things like that. So, question: any recommendations for UTI in male cats? I've heard catnip can also help with the pain. Be really careful giving cats like fragrant herbs like catnip more than once in a while, because their livers can't process the phenols and it can kill them. Like, it might not happen instantly, but it hurts their liver. You would want to work with something that has low phenols. Like, you could definitely check out like corn silk, like make a corn silk infusion, or grind the corn silk up and add it into their wet food to see if they'll eat it. You might want to let it sit in the fridge for a day with the wet food so it softens back up, so they don't notice like a different texture to it. But also check out your litter box situation. Like, do you have like scented litter? Like, what is causing the reoccurring infection? Like, where's the bacteria coming from, right? It might be something going on with the litter box or their environment that they're picking it up again and again. So let's see. Question: is Ella? Blah, blah, blah. Come on, brain. Are Ella campaign leaves useful? Mine is beautiful right now. I'm afraid it's about to be too hot for it to bloom. We're ready, nearing 100 degrees. Yeah. Ella campaign. You want to use the root. Right, so like you can use the leaves, like people like to use them for a compress for pain. You could probably do a nice oil infusion for a chest rub to like open up your lungs, right? But then really what you want to do is wait until your first frost, if you have frost, or if you have like prolonged cold for a little while, give it a couple weeks at least until the plants all the way died back, and then dig up the roots. Right, and then you would want to tincture those roots freshly, or you could make an oil infusion or save it for tea, but I like to use elecampane as a tincture. Um, let's see. From cheap cat food, tuna often causes ear problems. Yeah, the food can definitely be a part of it too. Um, Question: what can I use rue for? I don't work with rue a whole lot. A lot of people, I believe, use her as like a blood purifier, right? I want to say that topically she's good for dermatitis type stuff, but I don't really work with her a whole lot because she doesn't really grow here. Questions. Any recommendations on kyphosis in the neck area and cervical and lumbar degenerative disc disease? So I don't know exactly what that is. I know what the degenerative. I know what your bones falling apart means. So I'll just touch on the part that I know because sometimes if you tell me what the symptoms are, I would know what to do for that. But every medical name is hard sometimes, right? But really, I would look into anything degenerative in your bones, anything that's crumbling like that. You are probably severely deficient in vitamin K1 and K2. K1 comes from leafy greens, right? But did you know that your liver, if it's like optimum and super happy, can only like convert about 10% of that on a good day into vitamin K2? K2 comes from things like animal fats, butter, cheeses, fermented foods too, because the bacteria in there dies and turns the K1 into K2, right? But we're chronically low in this, even though Google will tell you that like it's a very rare deficiency. Actually, it's super, super common, and it's a problem. Anybody who's dealing with like hardening arteries, like anything like that where calcium is depositing where it's not, if your bones are crumbling, you should probably do a deep dive into vitamin K1 and K2 beyond the first page of Google results. Right? It's amazing. And a lot of people are deficient in it, and it can be deficient, like be made deficient by like stress, mold exposure, gut health issues, all kinds of stuff. Um, so Question: what can I do to help my dad with blood vessels coming to the surface and blood blisters? He has an appointment with a physician in 4 months, but I assume it will be useless. I don't know what's causing it is the problem. Like, I want to say that typically if you're like check his vitamin C, ask the doctor to check his vitamin C, even if he doesn't think it's right or if he thinks it's stupid and it's pointless and nobody in the first world could ever be vitamin C deficient. Get his vitamin C checked. Vitamin C is so interconnected to vein and vascular health because it creates collagen. Your body needs vitamin C to synthesize collagen, right? And collagen is what makes your veins elastic. So one of the things that started happening to me just to creep a bunch of people out before I realized that I had fucking scurvy. Even though I was like eating fruit and things like that, right? Our dietary intakes are much higher than they account for, especially with current stress level and environmental factors and things like that. But anyhow, every time I would go to have my blood drawn to take a lab for myself, because I don't fuck with doctors. I just order it through walk-in labs and things like that for myself most of the time. My veins started to collapse. They could not get blood from me anymore, and everything was fragile. And I'm like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And I don't like giving blood, but I'm like, just do it. But when they have to poke me 6 times and look for a different vein, that was not normal. Well, it turns out I was right. I had a vitamin C deficiency, and a severe one. And so once I corrected that, after about 6 months, I went back in and I was able to give blood a little easier without my veins like collapsing on me, right? So I would suspect that if he's having issues with his veins, I would just not overlook that. I would overlook and deep dive into the vitamins that are responsible for vascular health. Like, is his high blood pressure like pushing them out? Is it low blood pressure? Is he losing elasticity and things like that? But until like, because the doctors are good at like digging and finding a cause sometimes, right? But if not, I would just start deep diving into vitamins, deep diving into what he might be deficient in. So, question: what are your top solutions for eczema? Try just about everything. Oh, lost it. Thank you so much, Cody Austin, for the super. It's nice that you think I'm your favorite human. It's nice. Question: what are your top solutions for eczema? Try just about everything. Prevention is half the battle, but once it appears, it can really be a vicious cycle that's hard to stop. I would really, really, really look into getting all rancid seed oils out of your diet. Period. Get all of the PUFA oils, the like the canola oil, the grapeseed oil, the safflower oil, vegetable oil, all of that stuff out of your diet. And even if you think you're not eating it, look at your ingredients list. It's probably in there. The soy lecithins, everything. Get all of that out of your diet first. And then you can slowly start working with something like burdock root or dandelion root tea to start like helping your liver be happy. When you're dealing with eczema or psoriasis, it's almost pretty deeply connected to like liver, like being grumpy, right? But also, I would look into like repairing your gut health. Start looking at my videos about milk kefir and water kefir, because there's probably something going on like an endotoxin load. Remember, when something is happening with your skin, which is the biggest organ in your body, it's telling you that something internally, usually in your gut or your liver, isn't happy. Right, so it's not going to be an instant fix. Now, topically for relief, you could start working with a chamomile infused oil. I would suggest like avocado oil, that's really gentle. You could start working with comfrey compresses or a comfrey infused balm. Castor oil wouldn't be bad. Make sure that it's hexane free. Right, all that stuff topically could help with it. I also really like to make like an infusion with chamomile. You can't drink it, it'll be too strong to drink. Make an infusion with hot water, and then you can use that to make an oatmeal paste. So it's like a chamomile oatmeal paste on the eczema to help calm it down. um oh, someone was joking with me. I'm like, well, the joke's on them, it's so irrelevant, I didn't know. But okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on top chat. Slow things down. I'll see members chat. I'll like probably get like rid of some of the trolls, and I've been answering just freely for the past 27 minutes. I'll go probably a little past because I know I talked in the beginning. So, question: what's a good substitute for prednisone? You're talking about steroids, right? You want to look at the anti-inflammatory herbs. You could look into things like a linden infusion, deeply using something like chamomile on a regular basis. Look into, sarsaparilla might be a good one here. She's pretty good at lowering inflammation systemically, things like that, and looking at like why are they using steroids? And if it's for an autoimmune, you probably can't do any of that. Because they all stimulate your immune system. Oh, yeah. Question: how to heal your gut when you are in a histamine flare and can't eat fermented food? That is an amazing question. And one that I'm like working on now, like on a personal level. So here's the thing. You need to look into the probiotic strains like L-Gasseri that are low histamine fermented foods, right? So like anything that's like vegetables and stuff will be high histamines. But did you know something like milk kefir, only with the first ferment, right, made with fresh milk, will have still some histamines, pretty low though, but it has a ton of butyrate, and the butyrate specifically counteracts the histamine. So right now I'm in a histamine flare, and I had a big old milk kefir smoothie, and it didn't cause me any for breakfast, and it didn't cause me any histamine reaction, right? But if I turned around and I ate some of my sherbet cheese right now, I would like not be able to breathe because my histamines are all flared up, right? It's really interesting stuff. And so when you start looking into like increasing your butyrate levels in your gut, oh, and by the way, have you checked your vitamin C, your vitamin A levels? They're both super interconnected with histamine intolerance, right? Have you checked your copper levels? All that stuff, the underlying root cause. Yeah, and so it's really, really interesting. And then I even saw, and I know it's Reddit, so it's kind of like quoting Wikipedia. But I was reading a Reddit thread the other day about like people were getting like the L-Gasseri like histamine lowering probiotics, and they were culturing that, like making it like into a yogurt, right? And then they were taking that and they were adding it to their milk kefir during the first ferment, so the bacteria continued to grow. And they said that they were able to have, and they have they have mast cell type stuff. They were able to drink the milk kefir as long as they introduced the lowering bacteria, and I think that's really interesting, but definitely looking into like vitamin and mineral deficiencies that cause histamine intolerances. So, how can you go about getting your levels checked without actually having to see a physician? I would love to know. Thank you. Walk-in labs, Quest Labs. There's a few states like New Jersey and New York where you can't use their services, but go on to walk-in labs, see if you're in a state where you can do it, and then what you do is you find the lab that's nearest you, and you pay for it online, and you go to the lab and they send you your results. Right. Now, you'll want to make sure that you promise yourself not to panic when you read something and to do more research. And if it's a super complicated lab, you might not really understand what you're looking at. But when it comes to vitamins and minerals, but also when you get those mineral panels back and it says you're like 2 points above low, you're low. No high five here, right? It's something to look into. Thank you for the super JO Grooms question. How to prepare, recover from partial hysterectomy? Um, I talked about this a little bit on one of my shorts the other day that when we have a surgery or an injury or anything like that, our body needs way more calories. At rest, as an adult woman, you need 2,500 calories minimum. Minimum at rest. When you are up and functioning and moving, you need at least 3,500 calories, right? And that sounds like we're terrified of calories, but you really do. You really do need this amount not to waste away, right? So, I want you to think while you're laying there recovering that your body really needs all these extra fats, proteins, and carbohydrates while you're resting to heal because you are injured. It will take far more calories in a day. So I would make sure that you are eating at least 3,000 calories, if not more, a day. And I want that to be a lot of vitamin C rich foods. I want you to have a bunch of oranges in the fridge, a bunch of fruit in the fridge, or things to make smoothies out of. And I hope that you'll do a bunch of meal prep or you have a family member there with you that can then cook these meals for you. But I would sit down right now and make a meal plan. And make a meal plan before you have it, right? That way it's not overwhelming. You're not trying to figure out why you're recovering, right? And then you could also look into like nettle nourishing herbal infusion, things like that. Once your scar, depending on how big the scar is, but once it's healed up and scabbed over very well, you could start doing a comfrey compress on top of there and then start using calendula to minimize any scarring. Okay, so let's see. Question: herbs for lupus. That's a hard one. You know, I don't know why, but my brain just said that you need to look into the root cause protocol. I don't know if it'll actually help. I don't know, but it just popped in there, so I'm just gonna put that out there. Look into the root cause protocol, and it may or may not be beneficial for you. Um, Let me scroll up here. What are some good options to help with appetite suppression and our weight loss? Okay, let's learn about the metabolism. If you start starving yourself, you're never going to lose any weight. Your body goes into survival mode, right? Your body wants, and you have to get at end stage before you really start losing weight. Instead of looking how to suppress your appetite, look at how to give your body metabolically enhancing foods, right? Like if you crave like junk food all the time, your body isn't wrong in asking for that. It just doesn't know what else to ask for. If you're like, oh, I always want potato chips, or I always want something super sugary, or I always want, this or this or that, it's telling you that, oh, I need carbohydrates. I really need this energy, right? But we need to change the type of carbohydrates that we give ourselves. So, instead of a bag of potato chips, you can make a baked potato. Right, right, because it's not that the potato is bad, it's the nasty oils that are on it, right? Getting all those seed oils out of your diet will increase your metabolism greatly. Also, because again, I did fall into the rabbit hole of like the beneficial bacteria. Look into the L-reuteri yogurt and the milk kefir making because it's crazy. There are people that aren't making any extravagant changes to their diet. Of course, they're not eating a ton of hyper processed foods and things like that, but they're just eating a real balanced diet, not starving themselves, and they aren't losing weight, but they're losing mass, right? You're losing the weight around your stomach, around your waist, your upper arms, and things like that, and they're still eating because your gut health is related to your metabolism and how you're processing carbohydrates, right? You could also look into, for stabilization, you could look into like metabolic eating, right? The direct work of Dr. Raymond Pete. So many people take his work and bastardize it and tell you to drink, nothing but like Coke and like sugar and this and this and that. But that's not really what he's talking about. It's really just eating to encourage your metabolic health. So that is something that I would look into. Let me jump down. Oh, whoops, let me jump down here. Somebody said, I thought I had lupus for years before I discovered andrographics CalMag, which gives me super energy and immunity every day. I now do super long hill walks every day. Yeah, I think that people can definitely get diagnosed with something and they definitely have it. But we also know that a lot of people are misdiagnosed every day. Like, did you know a huge amount of people that are told that they have MS actually have a severe vitamin B12 deficiency? How about schizophrenia? No niacin in your body. Right? How about bipolar? You have zero thiamine going on in your brain, right? Like, and it's not that you don't have these things, but we never look for the root cause, and sometimes that is the thing, and some people do have that. But don't be afraid to dig deeper, to look harder, to look at your body as a whole versus an individual. And remember that a diagnosis doesn't mean that that's your end all be all, right? It can be like if you want it to be, but like it's okay to keep digging and keep questioning and finding things that work for you, right? That's okay because nobody else is going to do it for you, honestly. Um, so somebody said cocaine and alcohol withdrawal. Okay, so when we do things like cocaine and we do things like alcohol or any other drug, we're chasing one thing and one thing only: dopamine. There's even all these studies where in different countries they are giving people prescription dopamine and they're no longer craving alcohol or drugs. Right. So, but maybe you can't get that here in the United States, and a lot of those are clinical trials. But how can we increase our dopamine without getting a cheap dopamine hit? Well, right off the bat, if it's alcohol, you need carbohydrates, right? Because it's been a main carbohydrate source for your body. So when you stop drinking, it's like, oh my God, where are my carbohydrates? You need this alcohol. So, not that you're not addicted and also craving it because of dopamine factors, but also you're suddenly cutting out a carbohydrate, you'll crave it. So, I want you to like eat all the homemade bread. I want you to eat all the root vegetables. I want you to not be afraid of sugar. I don't even care if you eat candy, but like do something to help give your body the carbohydrates it needs. Make a homemade batch of cookies, something like that. And every time you think about drinking, and it might seem irresponsible to other people that are super into diet culture and terrified of carbohydrates, but you need to get those carbohydrates in your body. And I say it as a person who helped my son. Uh, he hasn't had a drink. He hasn't slipped in 10 months now. Maybe a little less. Maybe he slipped a little while ago, but it's been a while. But I helped him get off of alcohol. Right, and a big part of that was like, how are you feeling? He's like, well, I really feel like I want to drink. And I'm like, okay, well, let's have a high carb meal, and then it like passes for him, right? But with dopamine, you could start working with things like California poppy, ginkgo. You could start going out into the sun in the morning instead of looking at your phone. You can start going for walks in nature and really retrain your brain to find dopamine in different areas. So, but yeah, I am changing it up to 12 p.m. I thought maybe in the afternoon would be better. I'm kind of testing it out. Sometimes in the mornings, not a whole lot of people jump on. And I thought, maybe it would be more, um, you know, more beneficial. Same for nicotine, kind of different receptors. So one thing that's really interesting about nicotine is that you can use sunflower seeds. And I don't mean you help with the habit. I mean, I want you to go buy a fucking big bag of already shelled sunflower seeds. And I want you to eat them consistently every day, at least a cup for like a month. And then I want you to slowly stop quitting smoking while you still eat the sunflower seeds. It used to be a myth that sunflower seeds had nicotine in them and that's why it helped, but it's not actually true. But they do have a similar alkaloid compound that hits the nicotine receptors in your brain. And so it kind of tricks your brain into thinking that you're still getting what you need. And then you could start working with something like Mullen, where you like, dry or cure some Mullen. And like, I want you to break the physical addiction first and then the habit second. So if you got yourself a bunch of like herbal cigarettes, something that doesn't have any nicotine in it, you could then still smoke during the day, right? And maybe only a handful of those are real cigarettes, but the rest is something that's not a cigarette. And then once you get through the physical addiction, then you can start weaning down the habit of smoking things that are not nicotine, right? That's way easier. But Somebody says, if I am not able to chill in the park without a device, does it mean I have ADHD? No, it means that you've been hyper addicted to your phone that gives you dopamine. So you have to wean yourself off of it. You have to look into digital minimalism and start slowly, because this phone that you're watching me on right now is an addiction. You are addicted to it. They know that. They know that when they create these apps, every time you get a ding sound, every time you see a new comment, every time anything like that happens, every time somebody comments on there, you see hundreds of likes. All of that is engineered to make you addicted to the cheap dopamine. Right. So no, it's not about having ADHD. It's about not being able to let go of your phone. Right. And that is, it's hard. I always tell people, here's the first step. Learn how to take a shit without your phone. Start going to the bathroom without your phone. Right? It's hard. A lot of people will struggle with that. Get through that first. And then maybe once a week, start going to the store without your phone. Right? Or just a little walk without your phone. Like you really, but really, like getting away from going to the bathroom with your phone is a huge step. Plus, it makes your phone so gross when you take it into the bathroom with you. Like the bacterial count. Oh my goodness. But alrighty, folks. So that's 40 minutes. And even though my brain is like, yes, we can give you all the information, I feel my body saying, please, please recognize that I have human limitations. So I am going to jump off. I'm really grateful for everybody coming on here today with me. If you would like to support my capacity to teach freely, to dump my brain out, to do my best to help everybody who comes at me, consider becoming a member. It's just a way to throw me a couple bucks a month. You do get early access to videos. If you can't afford to become a member, I don't even want you to worry about it. Those videos are always released on weekends, so it's not a paywall. It's just a little bit of a time wall. I've got 3 coming up. I've got one about chamomile in the wild where my daughter joins me. I got a chamomile tincture one and an infused herbal cold brew one that I think everyone's going to like. You can also call things home from my apothecary. I make all kinds of stuff, and I don't have a bottle here. I thought I did. For those of you who love my mouth mud, I'm super happy to say that my mint mouth mud and my charcoal mouth mud are in the apothecary now. I know I had the original and a lot of it, but I got help to make the extras. And you can use the one-time code TEATIME. I almost forgot it. TEATIME to save 10% off of anything that you would like to call home from the shop. And if you can't do any of that, or even if you can, make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe, turn notifications. All of that really helps. Sharing is super important because it helps other people realize that they are smart enough to do this too. It helps get my work out there, all that kind of stuff. So thanks so much for watching, folks, and I'll see everybody next Friday. Bye.